I think it is definitely now something that is there in the minds of most faculty, right? Earlier, they would probably swear by research alone, right? And now they have seen and they are sort of viewing an alternate definition of impact, right? The other thing that I hope that will ensure sustenance of this interest and activity is if the students get inspired. Then that will be truly, if people with PhDs, get into this game, then I think we are well on our way to become a technology power. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Speciale Focus, brought to you by Speciale Invest, a leading early-stage deep tech VC firm. I'm Hariharakli, an independent journalist in Bengaluru, and your host today. In this episode, our guest is Professor Balan Gurumoorthy, Director of the Foundation for Science, Innovation and Development, FSID, at the Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru. FSID, previously known as the Society for Innovation and Development, has played a crucial role in connecting cutting-edge academic research with India's expanding industrial and entrepreneurial sectors. In this conversation, Professor Gurumoorthy walks us through how FSID evolved to bridge the gap between laboratory research at IISc and real-world applications, focusing on moving beyond research collaborations with large companies to nurturing early-stage startups and fostering faculty-led entrepreneurship. He touches upon themes including the creation of incubation programs, support for deep science startups, and the changing landscape of academic entrepreneurship in India. Professor Gurumoorthy brings decades of academic and industry experience to his role at FSID. Known for his leadership in areas such as computer-aided design and manufacturing, he has also pioneered technology transfer initiatives within the IISc ecosystem. His earlier work in setting up service bureaus for CAD/CAM and his own experience as a founder of a technology startup have informed FSID's unique model, balancing support for research translation and the realities of startup formation. Under his leadership, FSID has expanded its efforts to targeting important national needs in sectors such as healthcare, advanced manufacturing, and sustainability, while building processes that encourage both faculty and students to convert their research into successful commercial ventures. Professor Gurumoorthy, thank you so much for making time for this. Welcome to Speciale Focus podcast. Really looking forward to this conversation. Of course, in the academic circles as well as in the startup ecosystem, FSID is a very well-known institution. From a more general audience's perspective, if you can start us off with a sort of brief history of how SID has evolved into FSID, and we'll go from there.
So, thank you for having me. It's an interesting experience for me. To start the story, there was an evolution within SID itself also. In 1991, SID was Society for Instrumentation and Development. And that was inspired by the Oxford Instruments Company from and the inspiration was that just like that company which used to take the experimental instrumentation and rigs developed by faculty in Oxford to the market, the thought was that can that be same thing be done with the kind of work that the faculty in the Institute of Science were doing. So this was in 91, and by 97, when Professor Kincha took over, he saw that there is a much larger game that this entity can play. And so the I in instrumentation became innovation. And we changed our name to Society for Innovation and Development. And the first sort of mandate that we got from the institute was of course, to take research out from the campus to the real world. And it was felt that collaborating with industry was the best way to do that at that time. And so that started first. In 97, it started. And I guess it is probably because of the quality of the faculty we have, it also took off quite well. A lot of companies were keen to engage with our colleagues and do research. And that mandate was very clear upfront, which is that we would only focus on long-term research collaboration, no consulting kind of assignments. right? And so it really sort of took off, and several companies, and at that time, as it happened, mostly multinational companies, just caught on to this, and a lot of colleagues started, working on research projects. Around 2000, I think, by then what had happened was that one of our colleagues had quit his job because he wanted to start a company, and the institute couldn't find a way to accommodate that aspiration of the faculty along with the other aspirations the institute has. And that was quite a shocker, actually, because that person concerned was really a star. I mean, truly a good faculty member, and it was a big dent for us. And when in 2000, four more colleagues from the computer science department, they wanted to do something similar. We realized that, institute realized that it has to do something, and then they evolved a policy for entrepreneurship by faculty. And so the incubation part of FSID started around 2000, 2001. And the two companies that first got launched were, of course, Picopeta, which was taking the computer done by some of our colleagues in computer science to market. And the other one, of course, was that time known as Strand Genomics. First it was called String Labs, then Strand Genomics. Then finally, of course, it made its life as Strand Life Sciences, right? And so that was how the incubation journey started, right? And these activities were going on. The industry interaction, outreach, and research was quite steady, and some new names came on board. And around probably 2000, I wouldn't say 2000, 80, 98, 99, yeah, 2000, around 2000, 2001. The first building, Professor Kincha managed to fund it entirely out of FSID's resources then. And a building came up to house, labs from companies. So in many ways, it was the forerunner for all the research parks that you see today, right? That came to be known as the Entrepreneurship Building. And Professor Kincha had this very lofty notion that startups and large company labs will sort of coexist together, and each will feed off the other. So he built that building, and that came around the same time, 2001, 2002 time frame. And then it was sort of steady state. The incubation part of it went a little up and down with the subsequent folks. Professor Mohan focused more on the industry outreach part, and Veni Madhavan, when he came, he managed to get the TIDE grant from MIT for startups. And so that gave another push to the incubation activities. And then around 2015, 16, when I took over, there was this questions that we will always get from the big companies, society, what is the relationship with the institute? Why do we have to talk to the society in between? Right? And then we also decided that perhaps it is good to be in a better regulated environment, like the Companies Act. And coincidentally, around the same time, maybe a couple of years later, the Ministry of Education, they had given us a grant for some infrastructure, the Research Park project. And as part of that, they insisted that, the execution of that has to be done by a Section 8 company. And anyway, we were starting to look at that option. So we went ahead with that. The council approved that. And then we started this company in 2020. And now we are almost sort of winding down activities under SID. And probably from the next financial year, all activities would have been stopped, and FSID will continue to hold the fort.
So now under FSID, can you give us a sense of what's the mandate? I mean, sort of in layperson's terms, is this an incubator as well as an organization that supports very early stage startups and entrepreneurships, especially researchers, academics from the institute looking to start companies based on their research? Is that now the mandate? Can you sort of give us a sense of all of this?
So I go back to the the founder's vision, J.N. Tata. And he had two parts to his vision. One was that he was clear that this institute must impart education in all areas of human endeavor. That was his objective. Of course, we stayed focused only on science and engineering, but nevertheless, the founder's vision was all areas. But in that, he also said original investigations, that we must conduct original investigations. So, research is taken very seriously here in the institute, as you know. But there was another part to his vision which said that, this must be in areas that can, contribute to the material welfare of the immediate society around us and the country at large. And I believe that SID before was formed to fulfill that part of the founder's vision, namely to take the knowledge that is created in this campus and use it for the larger good. Right? And even without a formal structure of SID, you may probably know this, that when the sandalwood factory was being established at the suggestion of Salam Vishwesaraya, the technology for extracting the oil from the sandalwood was done here in the chemistry department. Right? And there have been other instances, subsequent to that also, where technology developed in the institute was transferred to companies in the country, and other technologies were given to more informal, organizations that would exploit the same. Right? So that history was there, but SID sort of gave it a structure. So that is the first and foremost mandate, I would say, for FSID even today, which is to translate the outcomes of research here to the real world. And we see it, to do it, we are doing two or three ways. First, of course, is to work with large industry, right? So that the expertise that is there in the form of our faculty and students, right, that can be utilized to take the knowledge that is available here and apply it to some problem that is of interest to the industry around us, and that it goes into the marketplace. The second is know-how that is generated here. We have learned that the best way that it can go out to the real world is through startups, where possibly the founders of the startups are also the people who created that technology. Right? So that's the second part of it. Though the mandate is still the same, which is take the outcome from here to the real world. Right? And beyond that, now we also sort of see one more role for us, which is to work in translational research projects, primarily because industry in the country also is in a learning mode as far as that is concerned. To take indigenous technology from a lab and process it further so that it becomes ready to be taken to the marketplace is something that Indian industry also doesn't have much experience in. And so it seems that the best way to do this would be to hold hands and do it together. And so we see that as the third piece of our mandate.
And now you also, as you especially post 2020 and turning into a Section 8 company, as I understand, you also have some distinct units or divisions, core labs, stem cell, and so on. Can you tell us about these different units?
Sure. So today, we have four broad divisions. Core Labs is perhaps the oldest one. It expands to collaborative research with large enterprises, right? And as the name suggests, that division handles all our industry outreach and collaborative research programs. So we do two things in that division. One, of course, is to do projects. And our endeavor is to sort of do long-term projects. And while we would like it to be coterminous with the calendar of a PhD student, we are not there yet. I'll be candid. Industry still wants gates and milestones which are 1 year, some are even 6 months, I must say, 1 year or 2 years. So 2 years is the best we are getting right now. Though there are some companies that commit the grant for 3 years, but they have gates at 1, 2, and 3. Right. So we are learning, and we are hoping that we will be able to get to a point where we are getting grants that are 3 years, so that research can happen without much of stops along the way. The other thing that we do in this mode, and we typically try to engage with the company, for a long term through what we call a master, framework agreement, which basically lays down the terms of engagement, confidentiality, ownership of IP, exploitation of IP, indemnity, all of that is sort of discussed and closed once. Then PIs from both sides can just define problems and scope and deliverables and continue from there on. And since we work with large technology companies, it turns out that most companies end up having multiple projects running at the same time. So today, if you look at in the institute, FSID under core labs would have anywhere between 130 to 150 projects going on, with different faculty colleagues from different departments. So both from the perspective of the domain of the problem and from the perspective of the geography of the company, it's really widespread. The spectrum is really large, right? So that's one activity. The other activity that we do under core labs is we enable companies to establish labs on campus. And there are two kinds of labs, and this has been the practice, as I said, ever since Professor Kincha set up that space infrastructure here, where the one is the company takes up the lab and mans it with its own people to pursue their own technology or product roadmap. But the expectation is that they would take advantage of the proximity to the institute, to the students, to the faculty, and the labs. And the agreement also sort of emphasizes this. While we do charge for the space they take, but our expectation is not so much that fee, but the fee that they give to the institute as research contracts and research grants. So we actually stipulate that in the agreement itself, so that that is not forgotten by both sides. Some years later, we also had another kind of interest from the companies where they would like to fund the lab either through physical contributions or financial contributions, and participate in the governance of the lab by way of defining research areas to be addressed or research problems to be addressed or projects to be supported, but leave the execution to the faculty of the institute. And both models are now continuing, and we have a reasonable number of labs under both categories as we speak today, right? That's the first one, which is core labs. The second large division is, of course, the stem cell, which is our incubator. And stem cell actually expands to science, technology, entrepreneurship, and M is, market, monetization, money, you name it, right? But we wanted to keep that front and square, to all the entrepreneurs, that finally at the end of the day, wealth has to be created by these companies. So, that's the... And the stem cell, is also slightly aspirational on our part, that, just like the biological organ allows, anything that comes into it contact to grow, we hope that all the founders who come to us with their ideas will also grow in our umbrella. And stem cell basically is focused on deep tech or deep science startups. And our definition of deep science is very simple, that the offering of the company be based on science. Not that they use science and tech to do other things, but the offering itself, the product or the technology itself be based on science and technology. So it's a running kind of open incubator. Founders with an idea can stop by anytime, and if they are able to convince the team here, we are very happy to support them and nurture them. We are agnostic both to the domain of the company as well as to the origin of the founder. So if you look at our portfolio today, more than 45% of the companies are by founders who had no connection with the Institute of Science till they came to us. Right? Of course, once they come here, we insist that they sign up or try to co-opt a faculty member on board, so that it gives us comfort that the science component or the science quotient of the company is quite high. Right? Over time, stem cell has also opened up to do some other things. One is, of course, domain-based incubation. This is primarily because there were agencies that were willing to give us grants or financial support to do thematic incubators. So Government of Karnataka, for instance, through KITS, has supported us in two areas. One is geriatric healthcare, and the other one is nanotechnology and nanosciences. The MIghty at the central government has given us a grant to support incubation in the gallium nitride ecosystem. And there are others that are now brewing in quantum technologies and other spaces. So, we started doing that also, what we call thematically coherent incubators. And some large corporates have also been reaching out to us to do what I might call cohort-based incubation, which is something we never did in the past. These are short-term, but we don't want to do a weekend kind of hackathon kind of short-term, but maybe 6 weeks, 2 months, a little longer than 2 months kind of cohorts, where we can bring them to a point where the pitch gets very refined and the founder also has clarity, and then select either the company can support them, or we can support them, or we can do co-incubation as well. So that's the other activity we do with stem cell. One activity which we have been doing it, but from our own resources, is the entrepreneurship in residence program under stem cell. And our original motivation here was that we provide an alternate path, the career path to the PhD students, right? That they can create ventures out of their PhD thesis ideas, right? And the intent was that they get about a year, 9 months to a year, to either elevate the technology that they had worked on along the readiness level, or undertake a little bit of the market study to get confidence that indeed this is something that can find success in the marketplace. And then, if it gels well, then we sort of take them into the other incubation route. It has been a little anemic. We have done about 12, maybe a little more than that, 16 perhaps EIRs so far. But our desire is to do actually more than 10 a year. And we are trying to raise funds for that. But, that's work in progress.
When was it started, EIR?
We started it actually about 4 years ago. And as I said, we have done about 16 or 13 or 16 so far, 16, I think, so far. And you'll be really surprised that about 9 of them have already formed companies, and some of them already found support, funding as well. So, we are very gung-ho on this, but we want to really grow it, and then open it up to other PhD students and maybe scientists in the national labs as well, because if they have an idea and they get sort of the support, I'm hoping that we can get some very good ventures going. So that's something that we are on the lookout for. The third group we have is called Times Square, and that expands to technology incubation in mid-sized enterprises, just by way of acronym. The square is both mathematical, that the growth is of an order of magnitude, and also English, meeting place between faculty and the SME sector. And the thought process behind this was that, while India's SME sector is about the same size in terms of a percentage to both Germany and South Korea, but the output is not commensurate and not similar to that in Germany or Korea. And our thought was that perhaps we should look at, moving them up the technology and the value chain, so that they can grow as a company in the marketplace. And so we started by connecting SMEs with faculty, and we have run about 2 or 3 programs under that. And the product accelerator program seems to have found the most traction now, and we want to grow that. So we will see how that goes. And the last and the youngest activity that we have is called SEED, which basically is to look at how we can intervene with science and engineering for the economic development of sections of our society which are otherwise left behind, both rural and peri-urban areas, and the landless and the not so well educated youth of the country, right? And the intent here is to see if we can give them an opportunity at a livelihood that is, sustaining livelihood, rather than just, meager hand-to-mouth kind of an existence. So we started a program, and about 4 years ago, I would say, more than 4 years ago, 2020, yeah. So about 4 years, 4.5 years ago. And we anchored it in Chalakere, which is our campus in the Chalakere town, actually even outside of Chalakere town, near Chitradurga. And it's the youngest, and so it's still early days for that, but we have some 2 or 3 projects there which we hope, if it is successful, then we can attract more contributions and activities in that activity. So these are the four sort of broad buckets. But there is also one other activity in parallel that we run. We call it the program unit office. And essentially, the idea here is that we support large translational activities, which are has government funding, but usually faculty is not interested because it involves more implementation than research. And so this is something that we started doing it. And some of the programs like the IUDX data exchange program and the original gallium nitride program, all of that started under this program. Yeah.
Now, can you give us a sense of, from promoting startups and funding and all of these things have become very important. So, is there a formal process now where you take some equity stake as well in the startups that get incubated?
We do.
Okay.
We do. So what happens is that, like I said, right, founders are free to walk in, and then the team goes through a process, and finally, they are put in front of a committee, which is fairly, diverse in terms of the capabilities and the experiences that they bring to the table. Faculty from the institute, technical experts from the real world, business experts from the real world, and of course, people from the investment community, right? And so this kind of a diverse group looks at it, and once they say okay, then we go ahead with them. And what we do is that, irrespective, we don't do any serious evaluation of the company, but rather look at what stage of the product development they are in. And based on that, we take some stake in the company. It's anywhere between 2 to 10 max, right? The largest one, my faculty colleagues keep complaining, but it is actually reserved for the faculty promoted companies. But there's a reason for that. And for all others, it will be anywhere in this 2, 4, 7. Those are the three sort of ticket sizes where we take equity from these companies. And we stay with them till the founder stays in the company. And sometimes they ask us to dilute or divest a little bit when investors come in, and we usually support the founders for that. Yeah.
I will come back to this down the line, sir. But very briefly, is there a fund now, or a VC fund that FSID operates?
No. So actually, the funding that we provide to our companies, and we do provide space and funding, but unfortunately, both don't happen at predictable times. Meaning, when they join, if we have it, they get it, but otherwise, we wait till we get some money and then we give it to them. But we do try and give both to all our companies, right? And it has been through CSR and grants and government and things like that. We are now, sort of looking at how to start a fund, and it is underway. And because we are associated with the institute, so we have to take adequate care that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. But we are very serious that we must have a steady source whereby we can support these companies. Maybe anywhere between 50 lakhs to a crore when they come in, and maybe a mezzanine level kind of support 2 years, 2.5 years down the road when they need some funding for either testing or some quick pilots and things like that, right? And after that, of course, it's up to them and the real world of investors. So that's our thought process, and we are underway, and hopefully we will succeed in that.
And by way of doing some homework for this conversation, I was just trying to look up some basic info. As of now, some 120 plus startups have...
Yes, 126, I think. I could be off a little bit, but yeah, 126, I think. Yeah.
And out of those, some 40 odd startups are faculty led. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. So about 35%, I think, is faculty, and about a little more than 40 is people who had no connection with the campus before. And the alumni is the smallest of the chunk, and that's why we are hoping that the EIR will help us to sort of enhance or increase that. Plus, some of our alumni who have gone out to the real world are now slowly coming back, so we hope to sort of catch up there as well.
And can you give us a sort of broad overview of where these startups are on their journeys? How many are very early, pre-seed, seed level? Are there any Series A companies, any Series B ones also?
Okay. The bulk of the companies now, that is current, of course, 123 is a number which is from day one, right? But in the current lot, in the last 3-4 years, let's say we had done about more, the growth was much faster in the last few years, just I guess because the buzz in the country also sort of changed favorably. So we would have done maybe about last 4 years, about 12 or 13, 17 each year. So 70 companies, let's say, right? Of them, I would say that probably 25 to 30 will be, in the early stages, right? Where they have got some angel support, or maybe some HNIs, or maybe even some investment houses have put in some money in these companies. And quite a few companies among the balance are raising what you may call A series. B, there are some companies that have done that. Numbers I don't have readily right now, but I have one statistics which probably, I don't know, gives you a feel for the scope or the range of the activity in terms of fundraising. The last year, probably 10 of our companies raised probably around $27 million, I think. Right? So, which means that some of them are quite mature, because those are the ones that are able to raise in tens of million. The other ones will probably raise the early stage ones will probably raise sub 1 or 1. And then the ones in the middle will be the 1 to 10 kind of things.
What are some of the top areas or verticals in which you've seen startups come up? I mean, I'm aware of nanoscience, some climate tech startups, even aerospace and some biotech.
Yes. Aerospace. Space is actually, has been very good. We have had some quite amazing companies in the space arena. And without even a focused kind of thing, right? We just take whoever comes, much like the way the institute hires faculty, right? We have been just taking whoever has a good idea, but space somehow has coagulated a bit. We have about 7 or 8 companies now in various aspects of space tech. That has been good. Health and bio is another one where, a lot of the newer companies are in that space, and you will start hearing about them maybe a year from now, year and a half from now. Very good ideas, very, exciting ideas, and I'm hoping that they will do well. And in the past also, we have had some bio companies and point of care diagnostics companies which have done reasonably well. So that's another area which is quite large, in terms of if you draw a Manhattan, then they'll probably be up there, in terms of the number of companies in that space. But we do get a good variety of companies, in terms of there are companies in mobility, there are companies in sustainable tech, as you just mentioned, right? There are companies looking at water, and so a large variety of companies. Some in AI as well. We are not very AI heavy, but we have some very good companies in the space. Both looking at tools, looking at some foundational AI tools, looking at some applied AI tools. So good varieties there.
Any names of the startups that come to your mind?
So space, I would say, Digantara is doing quite well, and I'm hoping that you will see some news if you have not already heard. I'm sure people in the field might know it already, but they are doing quite well. Bellatrix has also been quite steady. Astrom, which is sort of, more network and backhaul communication kind of company, but they're also interested in the space side of things. They are doing quite well as a company. We have a point of care diagnostics company, Patso, that is started getting commercial orders now from large hospital chains. So they are doing quite well. There are some companies that have gotten participated in the IDEX challenge and gone to the stage where they are now getting orders from the user agencies, the defense services. So in the drone space, in the potable water, again they have started getting commercial orders, which is open water. And the drone company is Sala, TSALLA, and of course Astrom, I told you. And Patso is the diagnostics company.
Okay. Sir, on the faculty-led side, any examples that come to your mind? I mean, historically, because I've been a sort of tech reporter, I know that Pico Pita started it, but also there were companies like Ati Motors, where Professor Vinay, I think, was involved, and there were other such companies. Today, post sort of FSID becoming a more entrepreneurship-oriented hub, say post 2020. Any interesting faculty-led companies?
Sure. Yeah. I think Uday Reddy, computer science, he has a company called Polymage Computing, and they do some foundational AI stuff, compilers and optimized compilers for AI, and they have their revenues, and I'm thinking that they are cash flow positive as well. That's one very good company promoted by a faculty. The other one is my colleague Himanshu Tyagi's company called Banyan Intelligence. They are doing quite well as well. They are in, again, AI and network in that intersection of space. So that's another company that is doing quite well. In the data exchange space, Inder Gopal and some of his colleagues have also formed a company. And I think they are also seeing good traction now. One of the older companies which is now seeing a new life is Morphing Machines, which was this software configurable computing environments. So they are now seeing good traction from overseas and in India as well. So that's another company that is doing quite well, and it's a faculty promoted company. Patso is also faculty promoted, and they are doing.
Several months ago, I spoke with Professor Deepanjan. Was it at SimYog? Is that also part of FSID?
Yes. He's a faculty too. I am remiss in not mentioning him. Definitely, yes. He is also part of our success story, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So the reason I brought up, specific, that I wanted to get some specific examples is that even outside of IISc and of course IIT Madras's experience is fairly well known as well. So in a way, sort of an Indian golden triangle, if you will, T-Hub in Hyderabad, IIT Madras, and then IISc in Bangalore. This whole idea of faculty-led translational research leading to commercial startups and ventures based on deep science now seems to have caught on. And to my mind, it's also a very, very, very significant and important sort of cultural mindset in India, because this is really what we want, right? Because there are all these brilliant minds with so much scientific knowledge, but we have, up until recently, we have not seen that translate into serious products that can benefit large numbers of people, and which is what sort of Stanford and Silicon Valley is very well known. And now we are thinking that we can see all of you do that in India in the coming multiple decades.
Yes.
Sorry for a little bit of preamble, but the reason I mentioned all this is that I want you to think aloud about the significance of this cultural shift in the country. How is it that entrepreneurship has now become maybe more respectable, quote unquote, among serious researchers?
I think it is definitely now something that is there in the minds of most faculty, right? Earlier, they would probably swear by research alone, right? And now they have seen and they are sort of viewing an alternate definition of impact, right? How they can impact society. And I'm assuming
Very
that
nice.
large institutions, academic institutions like ours, will also sort of open up to account for this also as a way that the faculty can make an impact on the society around us, right? So that certainly now how deeply ingrained we need to see, because right now there is an external environment that is very conducive and very supportive, right? We have to admit that. And if it changes and if this buzz still remains, then of course it is here to stay. Then you can be confident that it is here to stay. And I feel it will, because I think a lot of the companies are very good companies and very sound companies. And while we may not yet, my director always keeps asking me, where is the unicorn? And we have to keep telling him that in deep tech it is not that easy, but it would be good if they can succeed and become a sustainable company, or get acquired by a company that wants to sustain this technology, right? So if that happens, I think this whole movement will be sustained and continued, right? The other thing that I hope that will ensure sustenance of this interest and activity is if the students get inspired. One of the reasons why we keep telling the faculty to do it is, to also inspire our students, because students also have the same pressures, that faculty used to have in the past, right? We have evaluation of our, professional work as a pressure, and they have family pressure, right? I mean, they want steady incomes and things like that, right? So now if they see faculty doing it and succeeding, maybe they will think, oh, if this guy can do it, I can do it too, and they will get into this game, right? Then that will be truly, if people with PhDs sort of get into this game, then I think we are well on our way to become a technology power. Yeah.
So, in the especially around Silicon Valley and all, the idea of establishing very good incentive structures. I mean, that's what I think the VCs and all call it. Establishing really good incentive structures for full-time faculty members in order to encourage them to become entrepreneurs, etc., is very well known. I'm just wondering at FSID and in your network, when you interact with policymakers in government and other organizations in the country, what is the latest sort of thinking in terms of how do you establish good incentive structures so that our scientists can also really go after entrepreneurship without having to worry that they are compromising on their research mandate?
I think at the policy level, other than the support they give for startups in general, whether they are faculty-led startups is incidental, but there is support to startups, right? That is there, but specific to faculty, we don't see that much yet, right? Especially in terms of what you call incentives, or what I might call relaxations in the other expectations, right? It is left to the individual institutions to form their own, policies and schemes for that. I would think that if everybody sort of veers around the fact that somebody has made an impact by taking something which is deeply scientific and created a successful business out of that, and that is also valued as impact, I think that is good enough, right? Everything else the marketplace will take care of, but that recognition in their professional evaluation, if that happens, I think that is good enough, right? That is not articulated that much yet. Surprisingly, there was this startup policy that was put forth by AICTE or MOE, where they were providing a lot of flexibility for the students. They said that students can leave and come back, and they can stop, break studies and come back, and all kinds of flexibilities were being thrown in that. My feeling is that perhaps they probably felt that we need faculty to teach the students, and so maybe they didn't want to give those. But they should probably think of some, as you say, incentives on their day job as well. To sort of enhance this. But I think if recognition is taken into account, I feel that should be more than enough.
Okay. So let me ask about the money aspect of STEM, as you mentioned, monetizing startups. I am aware of just the news that you have set up something called like a virtual fund and
Yes.
so on. So can you talk about all of this more? I mean, what are some of the steps that you all are trying to implement to get more funding for all the startups at the stem cell unit?
So right now we are throwing all our eggs in this basket, of this virtual fund, right? And where we try to create it as a two-tier kind of fund, right? The first tier, which is a smaller share, where we do the really zero level or the early stage kind of grant, based on our selection process. And then the rest of the fund will focus on normal investing in startups, where hopefully the startups that were already invested in also have a pathway to directly come and be seen by these people based on milestones met, etc. Roughly that is the kind of structure that we are envisaging, right? And our hope is that we should get to a point where we are able to write, when we incubate the company and sign the incubation agreement and thing, we are able to give them support at that level, anywhere between say 50 lakhs to about a crore to get started, right? And the mezzanine one, hopefully, the rest of the fund will come in and pick it up at that stage, so that when they go out for Series A, etc., good things happen to the people who invested in the mezzanine stage. That's the sort of the loose, high-level plan with this, and we are very sort of keen to get this off the ground, because that's the only way we see we can give this kind of money to the startups. And I think they deserve this kind of money. The kind of companies we have, they need this. Because, in Bangalore, if you say, I'm going to give you a grant of 20 lakhs, that's probably one person's salary for a year, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Right? And so so we want to upgrade that. So that is certainly one thing we want to do. The second one, which is also sort of related to this, is that if more companies are now maturing and we start getting returns from them, maybe we can plow that back into grants upfront from our side as well. We are seeing some now, part divestments are giving us some returns, and hopefully some complete divestments will also happen as we go forward. Then we want to sort of keep an eye on that and have a steady stream of that. So, my argument is that if we have about 130, 140 or 160 companies, and let's say 4-year duration, right, as opposed to the normal 2 years, let's say they are with us for 4 years, about 40, maybe 20 of them are graduating every year, right? And if 10 of them give us a significant return, we should be able to support another 10 or 20 companies every year out of that.
All right. So that was the other question on my mind. Is there a possibility where you can have an FSID ventures of some kind? I'm just thinking aloud. For example, there is an IIMA ventures and so on. Is that on the anvil?
So, IIMA chose to register, and they are a SEBI registered kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So that is being floated around. It's too early to talk about that. Let's see how this virtual thing takes off first, and learnings from that maybe encourage the leadership here to, sort of look at more active options.
Okay, I will switch tracks, and you are involved in a program called Pravriddhi, which is a very ambitious sort of nationwide innovation network effort. Can you tell us about this? What is the rationale behind it? When was it started?
Yeah, so around 2021-22 timeframe, right? MHI, Ministry of Heavy Industry, we had done some projects with them, and so they had come for evaluation. The secretary had come, and in a meeting with the director, he said that, you guys do a good job of selection, but you don't nurture, well, right? And we should do a program where the nurturing also happens. And so the director asked us, what can we do? And so we submitted this thing called product acceleration, right? Where we said that we'll pick companies and we'll work with them to, take a product from ground up, right? And have it ready for pilot testing in a fixed period of time, maybe 24 months or 30 months kind of thing. And so we called it as a product acceleration program, right? And MHI did come through, and they funded it. And at that time, the way we had asked for it was this pan-India kind of thing, where we do one cohort here, but we also help other organizations in the country do cohorts in their respective places as well. But that time, MHI sort of didn't buy it, and they just ran it as multiple cohorts, each run by their own companies. So then we sort of thought that, we established a good infrastructure for our accelerator, and we thought that it can be scaled up, and in collaboration with other institutions. And we saw some institutions come forward and reach out to us to see if they could do something similar. And so that is how Pravriddhi as a product accelerator came about. But that said, it is still early days. The first accelerator that we have done, I'm thinking we had 8 products, of which probably 3 are already in the marketplace, and maybe another 3 will definitely get into and be successful. And other 2, again, it's still not over yet. So, it's getting over only by December. I think so. We will probably do quite well in that program. And based on that, we are hoping that, we can again collaborate and reach out to these organizations and start doing this. And also start doing this with private support, not just government support. Though initially we are looking for government to support this kind of an activity, where the idea is that the risk part of it, because this is not an existing product that we are trying to improve. This is a product that the company currently does not make, and the product is possibly not available in the country, and if imported or not available anywhere at all. So these are the criteria that we have for selecting products in this cohort. And so my thinking is that though our ambition is to do it pan-India, I think we may have to do one more cohort on our own to sort of build credibility and work with some of the other organizations that have shown interest with us and signed MOUs with us, and grow it to a nationwide activity slowly.
Okay. I also wanted to capture at least a little bit of insight or information about your own kind of personal journey. You're a well-known academic researcher yourself. Can you talk about what got you interested in leading an organization that's focused on entrepreneurship?
Okay. First of all, I think the credit or the blame goes to Professor Anurag Kumar, right? Because I was in the department, I was chairing the design manufacturing department then. And he just called one fine day and said, look, SID is going to be leaderless, because Jayant Modak, who was leading it, I think he was tapping him to become the deputy director. And so he said, we want you to run it. So I said, look, I'm already running the department. He says, we'll find somebody else to run the department. You do this. So certainly that faith he showed was a big cause to that. But that said, I must also admit that, I had done, something similar early on in the institute. We used to run a service bureau in the CAD/CAM space with TCS, since 1995. It's called APDAP. Not very, not very well known, but we were basically the premise there was that the cost of a CAD/CAM software and a workstation was probably 1 man year in the West, but 30 man years in India. And therefore, spread of these technologies would not happen. And so we had this idea that, we will run a service bureau where those who cannot invest in this can come and take the service from us and do this, right? And then we added rapid prototyping or 3D printing to that, and scanning, reverse engineering, and finally we decided that we will do new product development for companies, right? And so I had that experience, and I had seen industry and everything else. And we also, with my student, we had started a company, in compression of 3D CAD models. This was 2007, 6, I think, 2006, right? And we sort of didn't take off, but we did manage to raise VC funding. But somehow it didn't work out well, and the student sort of decided enough, and then I couldn't find alternative ways to sustain it. So we said, okay, it's done. So I had that experience as well. And so I knew some of the issues and problems that we face. So I thought, okay, let's see how to do this. And that's how I got into this. And so at least, not a stranger completely to this. And certainly the faith Professor Anurag Kumar showed also helped. But yeah, that's how it started.
And for a general audience, for folks who may not know him, Professor Anurag Kumar, renowned engineer, scientist, and former director of IISc, right?
Oh yeah, he is a fantastic academic and the director, of course, of IISc. And I think, he had a good understanding because he was from Bell Labs. And I think that really shaped his thought process. And, and that rubbed off on us as well,
Okay. So now come my remaining two standard questions. The first one is, if you look at all the experience that you've got in running FSID and of course, generally what you see in the country today happening in terms of translational research and so on, to your mind, at the top level, at the high level, what are still the most difficult challenges, that are coming in the way of India becoming a deep science leader globally? I mean, in the context of deep tech, not just scientific research, but translating the science to large deep tech companies.
I think, I guess I need to spend more time thinking about that. But the first thing I would definitely say is that I think we take this fail fast thing very seriously. We give up on things too soon. We don't stay on a problem long enough, that success comes our way, right? We sort of give up fairly quickly. While, of course, a lot of the pundits will say fail safe is a good strategy, right? Fail fast, sorry, is a good strategy. But I think we take it too seriously. I think, if the area is important to us as a country, right? And most areas are important to India as a country because we are too large to put all our eggs in one basket, right? Motors, CNC controllers, right? These are all things that are available elsewhere, but we must also have our own thing as well. We started it, but first sign of a problem and the fact that it is available outside, we just drop it and go, right? And I think that's a mistake. I think we should stay the course. And if industry doesn't want to stay the course, government must find a way to keep that lamp burning, till such time that industry comes back to the same thing, right? And only way to do that is by investing in research in academic institutions where they continue doing this, right? So we can't just keep following fashions. We have to sustain work in some of these areas and doggedly at that and see through, to success. I think that's definitely one area that I feel we should improve on. We should sustain support to some areas till such time that success is met. I understand Dr. APJ Kalam used to say that, to some of the projects that he would manage, that if you think that you can escape and we will close down the project, forget it. It won't, close. Only way it will close is if you succeed in building the product. And I think that kind of a messaging should happen all the time in this country. So that's definitely one thing that I hope we do, right? The other thing is that, like I said, it's not fair to blame industry alone, but both sides, have to sort of learn to give up their comfort zones a little bit and and do a little bit more, right? While in a developed environment, I can afford to say my job is to create new knowledge and that's it. And they wear the other hat and say, give me a shrink wrap product and I will run with it, right? Reality is that, we need to sort of take something that is not completely done yet and work. And faculty must accept that, there will be things to still fix and clean up. And industry must also accept that they have to do some of the development themselves, and bring the product to market. That should happen more often. And these accelerators kind of programs essentially, are means to do that, I feel. Just give the confidence to both sides that something we do can be launched and, succeed in the marketplace, hopefully.
Okay. Last question for this conversation is, if you throw the story forward 5 years, 10 years, probably very long in terms of horizon, 3 to 5 years, in the optimistic scenario, what would you like to see FSID to become?
See, I think, it's easy to say more of the same, but I think we should probably deliver more. For example, we have 450, 500 faculty in the campus, right? While I don't expect all of them to roll their sleeves and work with industry, right? Some of them have to do blue sky research and, theoretical stuff, which probably will take years to be of interest to the world at large. But 50%, at least, we want them to actively pursue most of their research in collaboration with industry, right? So that's sort of one goal that we are setting for ourselves, that, we have 130 projects running right now, right? We should, and some of the faculty run multiple projects. So therefore, clearly 100 or less than 100 faculty are involved in projects with us. So if we can double that to 200, right? So that's a huge increase in activities, and companies that are engaging with us. And that changes a lot of things. So that's definitely one thing. The second one is that, the point that I already mentioned about the stem cell part, where, this ratio of companies that are constantly, succeeding, right? The funnel is large enough that it becomes a self-sustaining exercise, at least for us to seed the process continually. That's another goal for us. I think we want to move away, if possible, from government funding for even the product accelerator activity. And that depends on success. If you can show success in, 2 or 3 cohorts, 2 cohorts, I think. 1 cohort, probably people may dismiss it as beginner's luck. But if you do it one more time and show that, look, we have done 10 products, of which, say, 7 or 8 are in the market today earning revenues for the company, I think we should be able to get private funding for that. So the institute expects FSID to be the window through which it gets money from industry, right? And I would like to grow that. And last one activity, of course, is this translation thing, the newer areas, all the critical areas that you said. It could be aero engine, it could be hypersonics, it could be, rare earth materials, new battery materials, right? In all of them, the tyranny of the TRL in India has been, a long-standing one, meaning that labs will produce 5 milligrams of a new material and close shop, right? Because their wherewithal only extends till there. Industry is not interested unless you get 50 kgs, right? So I want FSID to be in a position where it can be that translation house, where it can take this 5 mg technology to a 50 kg technology, so that, people don't think twice about running with it.
That's it for today. You can find links to FSID's website and Professor Gurumoorthy's bio in the show notes. If you're an aspiring deep tech founder in India, do look them up. We'll be back with another episode of Speciale Focus. Until then, it's goodbye from me, Hari Arakli. Thank you for joining us.